To
with Dr. Slaten.
Oh, you want to start with Dr. Slaten? Okay, Dr. Slaten. You're the chosen one.
Yes, she is. Well, we all have a part.
Okay.
So, good afternoon, Senator Barrow and members of the committee. We thank you for giving the opportunity for us today to speak before your group. So, as Senator Barrow said, my name is Dr. Lise Anne Slatten. We're here today from University of Louisiana at Lafayette to talk to you about an important issue for women of all ages in our state, basically surrounding the topics of gender-based harassment, discrimination, and hostile work environment. We have provided some materials for you that will give you the background and the details of our current situation at UL. So hopefully you have those and we'll have an opportunity to look at them at some point. But today, what we'd like to do is go beyond the facts and explain the personal side of the problem. So today I have with me, as you just heard, Dr. Patricia Lanier and Dr. Lise Henke. Also a part of our group and watching via live stream in Italy today is our other colleague, Dr. Gwen Fontenot, who is away on sabbatical, so she was unable to be here. So Dr. Lanier will explain why we're here. Dr. Henke will talk about how we think we got to this problem and the causes of the problem, and then I'll wrap up at the end with some observations, and we have come today with some suggested solutions. And we plan to be brief, so just bear with us. Dr. Lanier?
Thank you so much for having us here today. I wish you had known me a year ago. I was like a middle-aged woman with the soul of a 20-year-old. You know, that invincibility, bulletproof. I wasn't afraid of anything. But now, I'm afraid of everything. I'm afraid to go to work. I'm afraid to use the elevator. I'm afraid to be in my office alone when everybody around me leaves for lunch. I'm afraid to use the stairs closest to my office because they're more isolated. I'm afraid to walk to and from my car. I'm afraid to walk to class. I'm even afraid in my own home, and I'm afraid to go out in my community. I'm always afraid. In March of 2017, I experienced an event that was the peak of months of ongoing harassing, bullying, and intimidating tactics by a male colleague. These actions were deliberate and they were intentionally designed to control and coerce me. My colleagues who are with me here today, and Gwen Fontenot as well, have faced similar persecutions. We are being sexually harassed. It's not the sexy form that's in the media lately. It's not the, if you sleep with me, you'll get this job or promotion or this role in this movie. This is the more subtle, sometimes silent, ongoing, persistent, pervasive, and quite frequently systemic form of harassment. But it is equally psychologically and physically damaging, and maybe even more so. Because what we've discovered is it's really hard to convince people you've been attacked when there aren't any bruises. So we walk every day into a hostile work environment. It's an environment that has dramatically altered our ability to successfully perform our jobs. Our performance has dramatically declined. We no longer work extra hours when no one else is in the building for fear of being alone. And even when we are there, it's kind of difficult to focus on getting your job done when you're fearfully listening for the footsteps coming down the hallway. We've also personally suffered physical damage. We have increased pain levels, high blood pressure, migraines, teeth grinding, weight gain, weight loss, and insomnia, just to name a few. For me personally, the worst has been the nightmares. Initially, I just relived the event over and over again, but as time went on, my sleep imagination combined with my growing fear, and the dreams escalated. So now every dream ends with me being physically attacked and physically harmed, and I wake up every day with brand new fear. We also, each of us, bear the burden of the other women on our campus. So many stories, horrific accounts of harassment, many much worse than ours. And they are afraid, just as we are afraid. The most troubling for us are the stories that are coming from the female students who are being harassed by male professors. So why are we here today, and why am I telling you all of this? We're here today because we're representing every female faculty member, staff member, and student at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. We're here today because we are Me Too. But we're mainly here today speaking to you because what's the most important thing is that we too are Louisiana State employees. So now Lucy's going to tell you a little bit more about how the current system has failed us and is continuing to fail us.
Thank you, Patricia. So what did we do when these things started happening? We followed the system in place and the instructions we were given. After reporting the incidents to the interim dean, who was also being harassed, we had meetings with the provost, with the assistant vice president for faculty affairs, with the director of human resources, and with President Savoy. They advised us to remove ourselves from positions of leadership. They advised us to create our own policies, as there were no policies in place. They advised us to directly confront our harassers ourselves. That effort failed. We continued to report incidents to the proper authorities, and they continued to fail to take action to protect us. When it became clear that the university would offer no protective action, we sought assistance from the UL Police Department as further incidents occurred, and they did occur. The ULPD did everything in their power to protect us. They even took the matter to the district attorney's office. They attempted to conduct a threat assessment of our building, but the university denied the initial request and did not agree until months later, after more incidents occurred. So despite the good faith efforts of the UL Police Department, that effort failed. Next, we sought legal assistance as a means of protecting ourselves. Our attorney requested mediation with President Savoy to discuss the need for policies and consequences for violators. Despite repeated requests for mediation, President Savoy, through his counsel, Steve Oates, dodged, stonewalled, and failed to offer good faith mediation regarding the specific issues between the university and us, insisting that the problem is between us and the male faculty members. And so once again, no one is protecting us, and our efforts failed. We are simply asking the administration to protect the women at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, and that there be consequences for the harassers, which is what any good leader should want to do. Our efforts failed and failed again. The current system is failing to protect female faculty members, staff members, and students at Louisiana institutions of higher education, and that is shameful and leaves us all in a hostile work and learning environment at risk of further harassment. Now I'd like to let Dr. Slatten talk about possible solutions and observations. Thank you very much.
So we have asked Dr. Savoy in June of 2017 to hire an approved outside HR consultant with university or higher education expertise, of which there are such people, to conduct a complete review, audit, and revision of the HR policies and the faculty and staff handbooks. We also propose the following policy revisions for his consideration. Revision of the sexual harassment hostile work environment policy to define processes and outcomes for violations. Creation of an academic mobbing or workplace bullying policy with clear guidelines, processes, and consequences that override tenure protection. That is a major part of this problem. The people involved in pervading upon us all have tenure, and they hide behind tenure. That is a problem that we are finding within our system, and it would be the case within all other higher education institutions as well. We've also asked for expansion and clarification of the handbook related to unprofessional behavior. Now we have nothing that addresses that. We have a vague terminology that relates to collegiality, and that is subject to anyone's interpretation, no matter the supervisor. Collegiality means different things to different people. Again, we're looking for consequences that override tenure in this instance, as well as mandatory campus-wide training for faculty and administrators on these new policies and procedures. So again, I'll remind you, this was in June of 2017. We have not heard a single word from the administration on these recommendations or request. Nothing has been done. But the current research shows that training programs and reporting systems will not end sexual harassment. Only the hiring and promoting of more women will be effective. Other research observations that would be interested for you to know. Organizations that are particularly prone to sexual harassment and abuse are male-dominated, super hierarchical, and forgiving when it comes to bad behavior. In our case, we say check, check, check. The most common form of harassment is not the solicitation of sex, but rather gender harassment. Women who go up against the female typical norms and have a man's job, or have and express strong opinions, or assertive, or in supervisory roles, are typically more likely to experience harassment. The single biggest predictor of sexual harassment on the job is how permissive the organization is of this type of conduct. And finally, what determines whether or not a company or organization is tolerant of sexual harassment depends upon the leadership of the organization. When leaders take sexual harassment seriously, it's less likely to occur. CEOs, and in this case, a university president, need to take a strong public stand against workplace harassment. Leaders need to make a good faith effort to reduce harassment through consistent anti-harassment messages, regular training, reporting mechanisms, and a way for there to be investigations and remediation done in a proper format. This would be the type of solution that we are seeking to our problem. Furthermore, organizations should not oversee investigative complaints of harassment from their own employees. The internal advisors and the HR department at UL work for Dr. Savoy. They're investigating our complaints. Is it no wonder we have gotten nowhere? These people are there to protect the company, or in this case, protect the university. What is needed is for a way for employees to anonymously be able to report workplace incidents to a neutral third party with subject matter expertise who can identify issues and bring them to the attention of leaders in the organization for action. So let's recap. We've explained why we're here. We've discussed how we think we got to this point and the causes, and I just presented some research and observations and suggested solutions. But I'd just like to make a final statement or two. Strong policies, and I'm talking about policies that have real teeth in them, and training are essential. But it ultimately comes down to whether the leadership of an organization takes these issues seriously or not. In our situation, we have not been taken seriously. We are Me Too, and we're here to say time's up. We ask for your help to take action to provide a safer, more inclusive work and learning environment for women and all state employees. You are our leaders. We are state employees. We ask for your help today. We'd like to thank Senator Barrow and the members of this committee for allowing us the opportunity to speak to you today, and we'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you, ladies. First of all, let me just commend you for your courage to come here and to be bold and to stand up and to represent the many countless ladies who will come after you, who because of you, this will no longer continue. Because I have to say, I'm extremely disappointed to hear the type of action that has been going on at the university. I'm further disappointed that after recommendations that make complete sense, that there's still no response.
No, ma'am.
I would hope, I really mean this, that they are listening today and they do recognize that their time is up, because this will not be able to continue forth. And I can guarantee you that when they come before us during session, if they have not addressed this, it's not going to be a nice conversation. I will reserve any additional comments, and I'm going to lean to my colleagues, but I am very disappointed. I'm extremely disappointed to hear the type of actions and what you have endured. I can only imagine. But I thank you for your courage, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having us here.
Representative Marcel.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies, for being brave and coming forth with your stories. And I know that takes a lot, because you're probably getting more harassment because you are stepping forward. I'm appalled that I'm even reading this. It's disgusting.
Unbelievable.
And it's unacceptable for not just you, for anyone in the state to be putting up with that. And you're correct. You can have all the policies in the world, but until you have someone who's willing to implement those policies and there's consequences for people's actions, then we'll see it continue. I can't speak for this entire body, but I don't want to wait until session starts to address this. I think we need to address this immediately, to tell them what we think about this and what they should be doing. And further, I think the Board of Regents should certainly step in, because they are the ultimate supervisors of all of the boards, if I'm correct. Mm-hmm. I think that if they hear from the legislators, as Senator Barrow has said, that it's unacceptable, and that we're going to take these actions very seriously and stand by you ladies and other ladies, then I think maybe they'll get the message. But I'm just appalled at reading this. It seems like something in a movie. And we're in 2018, and people are ignoring your complaints. Mm-hmm. It's unacceptable, inexcusable, and downright just distasteful. This seems that there's been no good faith on anybody's part to correct this, just to cover it up. That's and right. It's just a good old boy. I'm glad you guys came forward, and I will get with the senator and anybody else who's willing to work with me. But I say let's reach out to the Board of Regents and to them now. I don't want to wait to sessions. I can't sleep on this that long. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Marcel. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Marcel. And I guess when I say session, I was meaning when they come before us for their budgetary issues. But I agree with you. Representative Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I too want to give you loud kudos for having the courage to come here and present this to us. It seems that you've been at this for some time, and you didn't give up, and that's really important that you didn't give up. A question regarding your EEOC. Have you filed that? It has been filed.
Yes, ma'am. We filed in June,
okay.
And at the end of December, we ended, the 6-month investigation period. We were scheduled for an investigator to come to Lafayette to see us. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, it was at the end of August, and the state offices were closed for Hurricane Harvey. Right. And so she didn't come, and we haven't heard from them since. So, clearly we would like to have an opportunity to speak to them. We just haven't had that chance yet.
And don't give up on them either. Make sure you stay in constant contact. I was also going to say this is bigger than UL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can probably imagine that across every university system that something is happening on somebody's campus, because we don't have those clear-cut, definitive guidelines on what to do, how to do it, and making sure that people follow through on implementation. And that's the most important thing that I'm hearing from you, that nothing was a follow through. That every stage you went through, there was a block, and nobody followed through on anything. And the issue of tenure, it would seem to me that it's very easy to place in a policy that you can lose tenure if this happens. So I think that it's important for people to understand that, we've talked about tenure, and we talked about, because we've done away with teachers. I'm an old teacher, so when you do away with tenure and tell a person who's a teacher that tenure is not given to you for life. Well, it should be the same thing at the college level as well, because when you create a hostile environment for someone to work in, there should not be anything to say that you're protected from not being able to follow the rules. So I really applaud you for doing this, for keeping steadfast on going forward with it, and make sure that you keep EEOC top of mind as well. And I agree with Representative Marcel that Board of Regents needs to do something as well. They are the governing bodies of all of these systems, so therefore they too need to have a policy. If they don't have one themselves, they need to have a policy and a mandate from every university to have one that is embraced and dignified, as well as implemented with people understanding what they can lose should they go against the policies that are in place. So thank you again for coming forth. This is a very public meeting, so I want you to know that a lot of people are hearing what you're saying, and hopefully a lot of people who are in the same situation will take your courage and take it upon themselves. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Smith. Senator Hewitt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, ladies, for your testimony today, and again for your courage. These are not easy issues to talk about, and so it kind of breaks my heart to hear the difficulties that you all have been suffering. And so I want to offer a couple of thoughts here in terms of solutions. Before we jump to the Board of Regents, I mean, there is another step, and that is the system president of the UL system, Dr. Henderson. And I have already been in contact with him. I know that he is he has already, I think, gotten involved in this issue and is open to talking with you all and helping to add his voice to making sure that things are properly addressed. I'll also say that the audit that I called for from the Louisiana Legislative Auditor, he is going to audit all of the executive branch of government, which of course includes higher education. And so he will be looking at policies that are in place, what are best practices relative to policies in other places, what are the things that we need to do to strengthen some of those things. And he'll also be looking at sexual harassment complaints that have been filed and what have you, and kind of following through on the whole thing. And we expect that report to be back before session starts in March. And so again, I know that doesn't happen fast enough in these situations, but it is a tremendous amount of work to evaluate the entire executive branch, as you can imagine. And so I think that we'll have some additional guidance from him that should be helpful, and certainly this particular issue, I would imagine, will be, on his radar.
Thank you.
So I wanted to offer that. Thank y'all for being here today, and would encourage you to continue to work to take the steps that you can take in terms of process, and help us understand the gaps as you see them and what we can do to help correct those. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Hewitt. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I'm assuming, as I've heard, the steps that have been taken. Have you already contacted the president? The board president? Yeah, board president. Was he a part of that?
Dr. Henderson?
Dr. Henderson, he's on our list of people to send letters to, but
okay.
We had not quite.
You had not. Okay. I just wanted to make sure to clarify that. Representative Moreno.
I'm kind of going to piggyback on things that both of you all just said. But first of all, I agree with the rest of the committee. I commend you all for your bravery and for being here today. And from taking a look at all the different documents that you provided us, you've clearly followed through the process, all the steps that you needed to take, and still you continued to be ignored. I'll tell you this, as Representative Smith had said, you all are at a very public meeting, which is being broadcast, and at the same time, many of us are on Twitter and Facebook, and I can tell you that I've been tweeting this out. Now, some of the reporters came back and said, oh, this story has been covered. But as I read every single one of these stories, I'll tell you that not one of them had a response from the university or from the ULL system. And I think that right there is very telling. So if anything, I would like to thank Senator Hewitt for getting some type of response from somebody from the ULL system, and then hopefully we'll start getting some type of response from the university as well. But so it was not really necessarily a question, but more of a comment. But did you know that I just wanted to bring that up?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Moreno. Senator Mills.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I guess, first of all, I want to thank you all for being here. And from the vantage point I see, you were red, you were nervous, you were taking deep breaths. And now that you finished saying what you have to say, you have a smile on your face, you're relaxed, you've kind of now given the task to the legislature and whoever needs it. And I want to just thank you for having the courage to come here. And I want to thank the chairwoman for not only this committee, but every committee here, and giving anybody an opportunity that sees that the legislature can be a voice, to have that place right there at the table to be able to say your story and your venture in life and where you're at. And I want to thank you and the committee for the work you do, and for y'all letting me sit with y'all, because I really enjoy being with the committee, and I learn so much each time. And thank y'all, but thank y'all again for making the trip over. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Mills, and I greatly appreciate you and the committee for indulging us as we do listen and take testimony from our constituency. That's so very important. Representative Smith?
One additional comment, because it is public. If you get back to the university and there's anything said to you about this, that's retaliation.
Yes.
Just remember
absolutely.
that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So again, ladies, we want to thank you. We want to thank you for your patience today and waiting to this afternoon to come before us and to share your stories. And we greatly appreciate it. And I like the fact of how you actually did it in terms of, you presented the problem, you presented the solution, you presented what steps have been taken. And so I really appreciate that, because it really does show that you really did do your due diligence to make sure that you had covered every base. And so now you represent many. I agree with my colleagues. This is not the only university, but I tell you one thing. This is, for me, and I believe that I can say this on behalf of all my colleagues, because I do believe that we do not and will not tolerate that level of behavior, that this will be the end and the start of a new beginning, because this can no longer continue. Thank you so much again for being here today.